Hello again. I am from time to time accused, with some justification, I must say, of talking more than once about the same topic on this channel. This in turn has led to the suggestion that I'm obsessed with some subjects. My reason for returning to the same subjects more than once is simple, and I can best explain it with reference to the subject of this video. A year or two back, I became aware of the idea that black people are unable to access the British countryside, and I made a video on that topic. Then a few months later, there were more articles about this in the newspapers, and the idea was extended, and it was suggested it was not only black people, but also Muslims who were unable to visit the countryside. So I did a follow-up piece. I see now that the whole idea about black people and Muslims being unable to visit the countryside is growing, and that more and more pieces on this matter are being published. A new term has even been coined for the supposed nature of the problem, which is the alliterative phrase rural racism. In the description to this video, I give a link to an article published in The Guardian less than a week ago. It is about this idea of rural racism. One of the women being interviewed may be seen in the thumbnail to this video, and shows beyond any shadow of a doubt that this whole matter is not being discussed in good faith, and that there is more to it than meets the eye. Click on the link to the article for a clear image of this woman. She claims to have first-hand experience of being a lone black woman treated unfavourably in the countryside. She says, and I quote, "You're often the only black woman and often made to feel you don't belong in so many direct and indirect ways, being stared at, aggressively asked if you're lost, or repeatedly asked why you're there." Now, I have no idea of this woman's ancestry, nor of her self-image, let's say what she sees when she looks in the mirror, but I can say confidently that with her rosy cheeks, blue eyes and fair hair, if somebody asked her repeatedly why she was in the countryside, it would not have been because they took her to be a black woman. She is being less than candid, as are the other people interviewed on this subject. Another black organiser of black walking groups says that he thinks such walking groups are key to raising awareness of the history of the countryside's rootedness in colonialism and exclusion. Here is a man with a massive chip on his shoulder which he is determined to take with him on a country walk, which is a pity. He goes on to say that, with just under 1% of minorities accessing the countryside, issues of inequality and accessibility remain ever present. This is, of course, pure gibberish. The countryside is accessible to anybody. What about this rural racism which is now being talked of? Another organiser of such groups gives the game away. Julie Cuddies, a leader with the Black Girls Hike group, says, "Whenever we have new people on our hikes, their reason for not coming out before is that they thought the countryside was where white folk lived, and so they wouldn't be welcome. The only reason they had the courage to face this deep embedded cultural thing was because they knew they would be in a group of other black women, all doing it together." The deeply embedded cultural thing here is not racial prejudice in the countryside, but rather the prejudices of the black people who are refusing to go there. They are convinced that the countryside is too white and they will encounter racial prejudice there. This is their cultural thing. It has nothing at all to do with people living in the countryside. If such groups of people encounter irritation among farmers and other hikers and are being asked if they are lost, then it's less because they are black than because they are large groups. Most people walking in the countryside or national parks do so in ones and twos. If I take a shortcut through some farmer's field, he will not object. If I lead a group of 20 people across his land, he may very well come and ask if we're lost. Groups of people like that, youngsters doing Duke of Edinburgh expeditions, for example, are a little noisy and obtrusive and tend to be avoided by most hikers. This has nothing to do with skin colour, though. Most people go to the countryside to get away from large groups of people, to seek solitude and enjoy nature. I tend to avoid groups if I'm out. Sometimes you see old people teaming up for this kind of thing, and I shun them too because I wish for peace and quiet and solitude. I'm bound to say I go up Pen regularly, which is within walking distance of my home as the highest mountain in southern Britain. Most people one sees there are white, but some are black or of South Asian heritage. There's usually some Nepalese people. Nobody cares at all. A narrative is being constructed here. There is an agenda behind this constant flow of newspaper and television reports, and now the coining of this term, rural racism. It is not that I am obsessed with this topic, but journalists who are turning out such misleading pieces as the one to which I give a link. In other words, I am responding or reacting to something I am observing rather than creating it for my own self.